Most men believe attraction is built through effort. Through words. Through attention. Through trying to be impressive. That belief is wrong. Real attraction doesn't come from what you do. It comes from how you remain when things don't go your way. Watch closely and you'll notice something interesting. The men who are hardest to ignore are often the quietest ones. They don't rush to respond. They don't chase understanding. They don't react emotionally when tested. They stay calm. Not because they feel nothing, but because they control what they feel. Calmness is not passivity. It is power under control. In love, calmness creates mystery. It creates safety. And most importantly, it creates respect. In this video, you'll discover 7 moments where calmness stops being misunderstood and starts becoming irresistible. Moments that separate reactive men from grounded ones. And show why the strongest attraction is always quiet. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where you will find valuable lessons and tips to help you build a truly lasting love. In today's video, we will explore 7 moments when serenity becomes an attraction, with real stories and insight. Don't miss the advice that can change the way you perceive and live in love. You will definitely feel more comfortable when you find a quiet place and put on your headphones. Let yourself relax and be ready to receive the positive messages in today's video. Are you ready to start this journey? Let's start together. Moment number 1, when you choose silence in the face of provocation. There was a time in my life when I believed that responding quickly meant I was strong. If someone challenged me, I defended myself. If someone disrespected me, I reacted. If someone tried to provoke an emotional response, I gave them exactly what they wanted. It took years, and many unnecessary conflicts, for me to understand a quiet truth. The strongest men are not the loudest ones. They are the calmest. When someone tries to provoke you, especially in love, it is rarely about logic. It is about power. They want to see if they can move you, shake you, pull you out of your center. And the moment you react emotionally, you hand them control. Silence, when chosen consciously, is not weakness. It is discipline. I remember sitting across from a woman who knew exactly which words to use. Subtle accusations. Half-truths. A tone designed to test me. Years earlier, I would have argued. Explained myself. Tried to win. That night, I didn't. I stayed quiet. Not cold. Not angry. Just present. And something interesting happened. She became uncomfortable. Because when a man does not react, the mirror turns inward. People are forced to confront their own emotions instead of feeding on yours. Stoicism teaches us this. You do not control what others say or do. You only control how you respond. In relationships, provocation often comes disguised as honesty, emotion, or passion. But make no mistake, constant emotional testing is a form of instability. A calm man does not fear emotional tension. He does not rush to fix it. He allows silence to do the work. Silence communicates confidence far more powerfully than words ever could. It says, I am not threatened. I am not desperate to be understood. I am grounded in myself. Women, whether consciously or not, feel this deeply. Because emotional safety does not come from constant reassurance. It comes from emotional steadiness. When you stay calm under pressure, you signal that your inner world is ordered. And an ordered man is attractive. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means mastering them. There is a difference between being silent because you are afraid, and being silent because you are in control. One repels respect. The other commands it. A man who reacts to every provocation becomes predictable. And predictability kills attraction. But a man who pauses, who observes, who chooses silence over ego, he becomes unreadable. And mystery is magnetic. In Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." Most men feel insulted because they decide to feel insulted. The experienced man understands something deeper. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every emotion deserves attention. Not every challenge deserves engagement. Sometimes the most powerful answer is none at all. When you remain calm in the face of provocation, you do three things at once. You protect your dignity. You conserve your energy. You elevate your presence. And people notice. They may not understand why. They may even misinterpret it at first. But they feel it. Because calmness under pressure is rare. And rarity creates value. This is the first moment where true attraction begins, not through words, not through effort, but through self-mastery. And once you understand this, you never argue the same way again. Moment number 2, when you stop explaining yourself. There comes a moment in a man's life when he realizes something uncomfortable. The more you explain yourself, the less you are respected. I didn't learn this from books. I learned it from exhaustion. From nights spent trying to be understood. From conversations where I gave reason after reason, hoping clarity would bring closeness. It never did. What it brought was something else. Diminished presence. Because explanation, when overused, signals insecurity. Early in life, I believed that if I could just explain my intentions clearly enough, people would understand my heart. But maturity teaches a harsher truth. People don't respect explanations. They respect consistency. In love, excessive explanation is often a subtle form of pleading. Not for approval, but for validation. And validation seeking erodes attraction faster than silence ever could. A man of experience understands this. Your character speaks long before your mouth opens. When you live by clear principles, explanations become unnecessary. Your actions answer the questions before they are asked. Stoicism teaches us to accept one painful reality. You will be misunderstood, often by people who choose not to understand you. And trying to correct every misunderstanding is a losing game. I remember a woman once saying, "I don't understand why you're like this." Years ago, I would have rushed to explain. I would have justified my boundaries. I would have defended my values. That night, I didn't. I simply said, "This is how I live." And I let the silence finish the sentence. That silence carried more weight than any explanation I could have offered. Why? Because explanation puts the other person in a position of judgment. You become the defendant. They become the judge. A grounded man refuses that dynamic. He understands that not everyone deserves access to his inner reasoning. And not everyone is capable of understanding it anyway. In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus reminds us. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In modern terms, let them misunderstand you. The right people don't need explanations. The wrong people wouldn't accept them even if you gave them. There is also something deeply unattractive about a man who constantly narrates himself. Why he did this. Why he felt that. Why he meant no harm. It feels like uncertainty. Like inner chaos. Calm men do not narrate their lives. They live them. And here is the paradox. When you stop explaining yourself, people start paying closer attention. They watch your behavior. They listen to your tone. They feel your consistency. And slowly, something shifts. You are no longer trying to be understood. You are being observed. Observation creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attraction. This does not mean being cold or distant. It means being clear and concise. A few words. A calm tone. And then, stillness. Stillness is confidence made visible. A man who explains too much reveals that he is afraid of being seen incorrectly. A man who explains little reveals that he trusts who he is. And trust in yourself is contagious. In love, this is where power quietly changes hands. You stop chasing understanding. You stop defending your boundaries. You stop negotiating your identity. And in doing so, you become grounded. Not everyone will stay. Some will walk away, frustrated by the lack of emotional leverage. Let them. Those who remain will do so because they respect your center, not because you convinced them. This is the moment a man stops performing. And starts being. And that is where real attraction begins. In love, sometimes we don't need too many promises, but just a little understanding and a heart that knows how to listen. It is the experiences, both happy and sad, that help us mature and know how to love more fully. Here, I want to contemplate those things with you, so that each step in the journey of love becomes more clear-headed and peaceful. If you feel that what I share is valuable, please click like to support this video. And if this is your first visit, please click subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss the next insightful perspectives on love. I also really want to hear from you. What do you like most about today's story? Leave a comment below, because who knows, your experience might be a great source of encouragement for someone else who is listening. And now, let's continue to explore what's waiting for you. Moment number 3, when you do not react to indifference. Indifference is one of the most subtle weapons in love. Not anger. Not rejection. But distance. Short replies. Delayed responses. A sudden lack of warmth where there once was attention. For an inexperienced man, indifference feels like danger. It triggers urgency. He tries harder. Explains more. Chases closeness. I've been that man. And I learned, slowly, that reacting to indifference is exactly how you lose yourself. Because indifference is not always about you. Often, it is a test. A test of your emotional center. A test of your neediness. A test of whether your happiness depends on her attention. A Stoic man understands this. What you chase controls you. There was a time when silence from a woman would disturb my peace. I would check my phone. Replay conversations in my head. Ask myself what I did wrong. That restlessness made me smaller. One day, after enough repetition, something changed. The message didn't come. And neither did my anxiety. I continued my day. My work. My training. My solitude. Not as a strategy. Not as a tactic. But as a return to myself. And that is when I realized something important. Indifference only hurts when you abandon your own rhythm to respond to it. A grounded man does not rush to fill silence. He allows it to exist. Because his life is already full. Stoicism teaches us to place our sense of worth internally, not in external approval. And nothing reveals emotional maturity faster than a man who remains unchanged by shifting attention. When you don't react to indifference, you communicate something powerful, without saying a word. I am complete with or without this moment. This is deeply unsettling to someone who expects you to chase. And deeply attractive to someone who respects strength. There is dignity in maintaining your pace. You don't mirror coldness. You don't punish. You don't withdraw out of ego. You simply remain, yourself. This is where many men misunderstand Stoicism. It is not about being detached. It is about being anchored. Anchored men don't sway with emotional tides. They don't speed up when attention increases. They don't collapse when it fades. They stay steady. And steadiness creates safety. Ironically, when you stop reacting to indifference, attention often returns. Not because you demanded it, but because absence of reaction creates curiosity. People expect resistance. They expect pursuit. When they get calm instead, they feel it. Silence from a man who is still living well is loud. But even if attention does not return, something more important happens. You retain your self-respect. You don't trade your peace for reassurance. You don't betray your values for validation. And that changes how you see yourself. Love should add to your life, not become the center of it. When a man allows indifference to pass without reaction, he communicates. I have a life I am committed to. And commitment, to oneself, is the foundation of attraction. I've learned this the hard way. The moment you chase attention, you lose leverage. The moment you remain grounded, you regain power. Not power over her. Power over yourself. And that is the only power that truly matters. Moment number 4, when you face hardship with a calm expression. Life does not test a man when things are easy. It reveals him when pressure arrives uninvited. Money problems. Emotional conflict. Uncertainty about the future. Moments when love no longer feels safe. Most men react instinctively. Their faces tighten. Their voices change. Their anxiety leaks into every interaction. I know this because I lived it. There was a time when difficulty made me restless. I spoke faster. Thought louder. And unconsciously looked to others for reassurance. But over time, I noticed something uncomfortable. People trust calm men. They avoid anxious ones. In relationships, this distinction matters deeply. When things go wrong, a woman is not looking for perfection. She is looking for stability. A calm man under pressure communicates safety without trying. His presence says, "This is difficult, but it is manageable." Stoicism teaches us that hardship is not an interruption of life. It is life. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the obstacle becomes the way. But that wisdom only becomes attractive when it is embodied, not spoken. I remember sitting across from a woman during a period of real uncertainty. Nothing was certain. Not work. Not plans. Not the relationship itself. She watched me closely, not my words, but my demeanor. I didn't pretend things were fine. I didn't dramatize the situation either. I stayed calm. Measured. Present. Later, she told me something that stayed with me. I wasn't afraid because you weren't. This is the quiet power of composure. When you remain calm in difficulty, you signal emotional leadership. You become someone others can lean on, without asking. A man who collapses under pressure may be honest, but he is unstable. A man who denies pressure may appear strong, but he is disconnected. The Stoic man walks a different path. He acknowledges reality. And then regulates himself within it. Calm is not the absence of fear. It is fear that has been disciplined. And discipline is attractive. In love, this calmness does something subtle but profound. It creates polarity. While emotions fluctuate, you remain steady. While circumstances shift, your core does not. This contrast creates trust. And trust is the foundation of deep attraction. Many men believe they must solve every problem immediately to be valuable. In truth, people feel safer with the man who can sit with uncertainty without losing himself. Your calm expression during hardship tells a powerful story. I have been here before. I can handle discomfort. I am not overwhelmed by life. This doesn't make you distant. It makes you reliable. And reliability is rare. In Stoic love, you do not try to control outcomes. You control your response. You speak when necessary. You act when appropriate. And you conserve emotional energy instead of leaking it through panic. Over time, this calm becomes part of your identity. People begin to associate your presence with peace. With grounding. With clarity. And in a chaotic world, peace is magnetic. Hardship will come regardless of who you are. The difference is whether it sharpens you, or exposes you. When you meet difficulty with a calm expression, you don't just survive the moment. You become the man others trust in theirs. Moment number 5, when you no longer need to prove your worth. There was a time when I wanted to be seen. Not in an obvious way. But in the subtle, exhausting way most men live. Hoping someone would notice their effort, their intelligence, their value. I worked harder. Spoke more. Explained my achievements when given the slightest opening. I didn't realize it then, but I was negotiating my worth. And negotiation is always a sign of doubt. The Stoic man reaches a quiet realization with age. If your value needs to be proven, it isn't anchored. Real worth is felt, not announced. In relationships, the need to prove yourself is often disguised as charm, humor, generosity, or ambition. But beneath it lies a fragile question. Am I enough? A man who is unsure of his value will try to display it. A man who knows his value allows it to be discovered. This difference changes everything. I remember a moment that clarified this for me. I was in a room where everyone seemed eager to impress. Titles were mentioned casually. Success was framed as coincidence. Confidence was loud. I said very little. Not because I had nothing to say. But because I no longer needed to be measured in that room. And something unexpected happened. People leaned in. They asked questions. They filled the silence themselves. Because silence from a man who is comfortable is not empty. It is weighted. Stoicism teaches us to detach our sense of worth from external validation. Not because validation is evil, but because it is unstable. What you depend on can be taken from you. A Stoic man builds his worth internally. From discipline. From self-respect. From alignment between words and actions. When you stop proving yourself, you stop performing. And performance kills intimacy. In love, nothing is less attractive than a man trying to sell himself. Listing qualities. Highlighting sacrifices. Subtly reminding someone of what he offers. It feels transactional. True presence, on the other hand, feels grounded. A man who knows his worth doesn't rush to be chosen. He allows space for choice. This creates a powerful shift. Instead of asking, "Do you see my value?" he lives as if the answer is already yes. And that certainty is felt. Women don't fall for resumes. They respond to energy. The energy of a man who is not auditioning. A man who no longer proves his worth listens more. Observes more. Chooses carefully. He doesn't overinvest early. He doesn't overextend emotionally. He doesn't offer more than is reciprocated. Not out of strategy, but out of self-respect. And self-respect is attractive because it sets a standard. When you don't prove yourself, you implicitly say, "This is who I am." You may step closer, or you may not. There is no chase in that statement. Only clarity. The Stoics believe that the good man acts according to virtue, not applause. In modern love, this means you don't measure your worth by someone else's attention. You measure it by how well you honor your own principles. The moment you stop proving your worth, something paradoxical happens. You become harder to replace. Not because you demanded value, but because you embodied it. An embodiment always speaks louder than words. Love is actually like a mirror reflecting the inner self. When we are calm enough, we will realize that every challenge, every silence carries a valuable lesson. And that is what I want to convey through each story on this channel. If you feel that these shares bring value, please leave a like to support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe, because who knows, one day, just a small idea from these videos can change the way you look at love, at yourself. Let's continue with me, because there are many interesting things waiting for you to discover. Moment number 6, when you know how to walk away without resentment. Walking away is easy when you are angry. Anyone can leave in a storm of words. What is rare is leaving in peace. I learned this lesson late in life. In my earlier years, departure meant drama. Explanations. Final conversations. Unspoken hopes disguised as closure. I didn't want to walk away. I wanted to be understood one last time. But true closure does not come from the other person. It comes from within. A Stoic man understands something painful but liberating. Not every ending requires a reaction. There comes a moment when you realize the relationship is no longer aligned. Not because of betrayal. Not because of hatred. But because your values have diverged. In that moment, most men fight reality. They negotiate. They convince. They sacrifice themselves slowly, calling it love. I did that once. And I lost more than the relationship. I lost my self-respect. Stoicism teaches us to accept what is, not what we wish it to be. And sometimes, what is an ending. Walking away without resentment is not emotional coldness. It is emotional maturity. Resentment binds you to the very thing you claim to leave. It keeps the wound open. A calm departure closes the door quietly, and fully. I remember saying goodbye to someone I still cared about. No accusations. No reminders of what I gave. No attempts to extract guilt. Just honesty. And silence. Not because I felt nothing. But because I felt enough. Enough clarity to know when staying would cost me my integrity. A man who walks away without resentment communicates something profound. I value peace more than being right. That is strength. In love, bitterness is a form of attachment. Calm detachment is freedom. When you leave without drama, you deny the relationship its final power over you. There is no emotional leverage left. And ironically, this is often when respect appears. Not always from the other person, but from yourself. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we are responsible for our own emotional economy. We choose what we carry forward. Carrying resentment is heavy. Walking away with dignity is light. A man who leaves quietly does not chase closure. He becomes closure. He understands that explanations at the end are rarely for understanding. They are for relief. And relief is temporary. Peace lasts longer. This does not mean erasing memories. It means not weaponizing them. You acknowledge what was. You release what no longer serves you. And you step forward without looking back. There is something deeply attractive about a man who knows when to leave. Not because he is detached. But because he is anchored. Anchored to his values. Anchored to his future. The ability to walk away without resentment is not learned in good times. It is forged in disappointment. And once you learn it, you never beg again. You never chase what does not choose you. You simply move on, with grace. Moment number 7, when you live well without needing recognition. At some point, a man stops waiting to be noticed. Not because he has given up. But because he has grown. In the beginning, we all want acknowledgement. A sign that our effort matters. That our growth is seen. I did too. I wanted someone to recognize my discipline. My restraint. The sacrifices I made quietly. But life taught me a humbling lesson. The need for recognition is a form of dependence. And dependence weakens a man. The Stoics believe that virtue is its own reward. That a good life does not require witnesses. This idea sounds noble in theory. But it is difficult in practice. Because modern love trains men to measure their worth through reaction. Messages returned. Affection given. Attention granted. But a man who has lived long enough understands something deeper. Your life is not a performance. It is a practice. I remember a phase of my life when no one was watching. No praise. No encouragement. Just routines. Early mornings. Lonely evenings. That is where real character is built. Not in moments of applause. But in moments of silence. When you live well without needing recognition, something profound happens internally. You stop comparing. You stop resenting. You stop waiting. You act because it is right. Not because it will be rewarded. And this internal alignment creates peace. In relationships, this peace is felt immediately. A man who does not seek validation does not manipulate. He does not fish for compliments. He does not measure his value by how he is treated on a given day. He remains consistent. And consistency is rare. People are drawn to those who are not trying to extract something from them. When you live well quietly, your presence becomes grounding. You listen more than you speak. You choose carefully. You love without attachment to outcome. This does not make you passive. It makes you centered. Centered men are difficult to destabilize. And difficult to replace. The paradox is this. When you no longer seek recognition, recognition often arrives. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But in the form of respect. Quiet respect. The kind that lasts. You see it in how people speak to you. How they trust you. How they lean on you without asking. But even if it never comes, you are still whole. Because your life is no longer fueled by approval. Stoicism teaches us that the ultimate freedom is internal. To act well. To love with integrity. To walk your path without needing witnesses. When you reach this moment, attraction becomes a byproduct, not a goal. You are no longer trying to be impressive. You are simply becoming solid. And solidity is magnetic. This is where Stoic love reaches its peak. Not in control. Not in detachment. But in quiet strength. A man who lives well without needing recognition is not chasing love. He is ready for it. Conclusion. If there is one truth that life teaches a man slowly, it is this. Attraction is not created by effort. It is revealed by presence. Throughout these 7 moments, one pattern remains constant. The men who are most compelling are not those who chase, explain, react, or perform. They are the ones who remain calm. Calm when provoked. Calm when misunderstood. Calm when attention fades. Calm when pressure rises. Calm when there is nothing to prove. Calm when it is time to walk away. Calm even when no one is watching. This calmness is not emotional emptiness. It is emotional mastery. Stoic love does not mean withdrawing from connection. It means approaching love without losing yourself. A man who is grounded in himself does not demand validation. He does not negotiate his worth. He does not panic at uncertainty. He trusts his path. And that trust is felt. In a world driven by noise, reaction, and constant seeking, calmness stands out. It creates contrast. And contrast creates attraction. But more importantly, it creates peace. When you live this way, love becomes something you share, not something you depend on. Connection becomes a choice, not a need. And the paradox is this. The moment you stop trying to be attractive is often the moment you become unforgettable. Because calmness is rare. Presence is rare. And self-mastery is rare. These 7 moments are not techniques. They are outcomes of a life lived with discipline, awareness, and inner order. Become that man. Not for attraction, but for alignment. And attraction will follow, quietly, naturally, and without force. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. Hopefully the sharing about love and lessons from this video will help you have new thoughts and find empathy. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share with those around you. Each of us has our own stories about love, and I'm happy to explore them with you. See you in the next videos. Wishing you a wonderful day filled with love.